Welcome to Island Crimes and Mysteries. And now, it's time to join your host Nules for another episode.
Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Ireland Crimes and Mysteries. I want to thank you for joining me today, and if you're a returning listener, I want to say a big thank you for your continued support. If this is your first time listening to my podcast, welcome. It's great to have you on board. So without further ado, let's get started on today's story. Today's case brings us back to County Galway and to a place called Carna, located in the Gaeltacht region approximately 50 kilometres from Galway city. Carna is a small, quiet village which lies near the coast. It is described as a pleasant holiday resort that caters to walkers, cyclists and anglers. It is also an important lobster fishing centre, and on Moynish Island, with its beautiful sandy beaches, University College Galway also has a marine biology station. There are also lots of uninhabited islands to explore, with the most famous one being Macdara's Island, where you will find the final resting place of St. Macdara on the ruins of an ancient church. In July each year, Carna hosts a 3-day festival called Féile Vicdara, which features currach races, sea angling competitions, arts and crafts exhibitions, and lots more for a fun family day out. And it is here in Carna, back in the year 1985, that we would find Barbara Walsh, Leiden, aged 33, a mother of 7 children ranging in age from 16 years old to 7 months old.
Mum wouldn't walk out with us, not the 7 kids. There's no way.
Barbara Walsh, who's now been missing since the 22nd of June 1985.
I just think she had a bad ending. Something's bad happened to her.
This is a disturbing story with much loss and sadness. It's a case full of speculation with many theories, rumours, innuendo. But one thing is certain. On the shortest night of the year over 30 years ago, a young mother of 7 disappeared from her home and has never, ever been seen.
Described as a hard worker and a good mother, Barbara lived on the 8-acre family homestead in Rushy-Namanagh, Carna, with her husband and family of 5 girls and 2 boys in a bungalow that was built for them by the council and within walking distance of the beach. They did not own their own car or have a phone. Though times were tough, the family were relatively self-sufficient, keeping animals, growing their own vegetables and potatoes and harvesting their own seaweed. They were a happy family. But all that was about to change on the 21st of June, 1985. What started out as a joyous occasion, Barbara's brother-in-law Patrick and sister-in-law Catherine were home to visit from Australia and America respectively after having emigrated years ago. Macdara, Barbara's husband, was delighted to have his siblings home to visit and wanted to make the time they had together memorable. They were all down in the local pub enjoying the family reunion earlier that evening. After they finished in the pub, they invited a few family members, neighbours, 2 of the local Gardaí and a priest back to the house to continue the celebrations. Her eldest daughter Catherine, who was 17 at the time, arrived home later to find her mother in the kitchen making tea and sandwiches, which she helped her with before heading to bed. Later that night, Barbara came into the bedroom with her friend to show her youngest of the clan, who was in bed with her 2 eldest daughters, Catherine and Jackie, who was aged 14. The girls went back to sleep after, and Barbara and her friend rejoined the party. Jackie woke between 4 and 5 a.m. and got up. The party had ended by now and everyone had gone home. She went down to the kitchen and found her mother asleep on the sofa and tried to wake her to tell her to go up to bed, but couldn't. She would later say she just looked asleep. There did not look like there was anything wrong with her, so she put a pillow under her head and covered her with a blanket. This was the last time anyone would see Barbara. When the family got up that morning between 7 and 8 a.m, she was gone. Macdara cycled into the village to check had she gone to do the shopping, as that was the usual Saturday morning routine. He also checked in with Barbara's mother to see if she was there. no one was overly concerned at this point. Having got married in her late teens to Barbara Walsh, who was 10 years her senior, the couple already had one child, their daughter Catherine, after which they briefly moved to England before moving back and settling in Carna at her family homestead in the early 1970s. The couple would have 9 children in total, sadly losing twin girls in 1973 to sudden infant death syndrome. Barbara was described by a neighbour as outgoing, friendly, and always with a smile on her face. Her children have nothing but good memories of their mother, so why would Barbara suddenly disappear? It would be 7 days before her husband would go to the Garda station in Carna and report his wife missing. He would actually report it to one of the Gardaí that was at the house that night. The Gardaí were slow to seek the help of the media for reasons unknown, but it would be a few weeks before any journalist would be aware of the fact that Barbara was missing. It was only when Barbara's sister and brother went to a local journalist to ask for his assistance that it would come to light. They were not happy with how the Gardaí were conducting the investigation and felt more needed to be done. They had also voiced concerns with the Gardaí about underlying tensions, particularly on the night she had went missing between Barbara and Barbara, but these concerns seem to have went on deaf ears too. When the journalist approached the Gardaí about Barbara about a month after she went missing, he was told that a public report was not necessary at the moment, as it was difficult to say when anyone was actually missing.
When her brother and sister, Padraig Lydon and Mary Lydon, came to me at my home in July of 1985, and they told me that their sister, Barbara, was missing. And they told me they had contacted the Gardaí. I know they had concerns that possibly they weren't getting sufficient heed or notice from the Gardaí. My memory is that the Gardaí said, I remember this quite well, that it was explained to me at one point that it was difficult to say when somebody was actually missing. They explained to me that I or anybody else could leave without telling anybody where we were going and go somewhere else. The Gardaí were advised me, I would say, that this is not appropriate at this time for a public report. This would have been, I would say, the best part of a month. But as a week or so further, I did meet the sergeant in charge at Clifton, and he says at that time, well, you know, at this time, I think we wouldn't object to a report being broadcast. And I went and did the broadcast.
The broadcast gathered a lot of local interest, but also a lot of crucial time had passed, making finding Barbara or finding out what had happened to Barbara a mammoth task. Lots of speculation as to what actually happened to Barbara was doing the rounds amongst the locals, but the Gardaí were still of the opinion she would turn up safe and sound, floating around the idea she had just gone off somewhere. There were also rumoured sightings of her in other parts of the county, as well as gossip she had left the area altogether and fled to England or Australia. Rumours were also circulating that Barbara was involved with somebody else, and people wondered had she left the house to meet this person. None of this was helpful and only aided in hindering the investigation. Those who knew Barbara well knew she would never walk out on her young family. She was so proud of them all and besotted with the new baby. Barbara had even made plans the night of the get-together to meet her friend the following Monday. Another odd thing was the fact that Barbara's glasses were still in the house. Barbara was known to have poor eyesight and would never leave the house without her glasses. As I said, there was a significant time period that had elapsed after Barbara disappeared before any major publicity, especially at national level. Up until then, Gardaí had carried out a few searches and taken a few witness statements, but nothing too taxing. Gardaí had searched the local area and also a few hostels in Galway City, but her family did feel that not enough was done at the time to find her.
Could they have done more? Possibly. It's probably unfair to apply today's standards of investigation to the standards of 30 odd years ago. So they could possibly have done some more. I can see what the family would be saying in that regard, yes.
Over the years, different Gardaí would take an interest in the case, but nothing concrete would come of it. It was Barbara's brother, Padraig, who would continue to actively search for her and keep her name in the public domain. Padraig is particularly bothered by one particular investigation where the Garda in question was in Carna questioning people and, as Padraig said, stirring up things before he got word to stop, and that was it. The investigation came to an abrupt end. Why? As the years went by, McDara tried his best to be both mother and father, making extra efforts at Christmas, despite the fact this time of year was especially hard for him, according to Jackie and Catherine.
We think about Mum every day. We thought about her every day. There wouldn't be a day that you wouldn't go by without thinking about her. But we'd be more sensitive to mention her around Dad, because it would upset him. Now he just say sometimes, massive culture. You know, where was she like? Yeah. He was left heartbroken.
Yeah, Christmas was tough for Dad.
Yeah. Christmas and
Christmas
Andrea's birthday.
They would be the toughest time for Dad. Like Christmas would be, even though he was very good at Christmas, trying to get, Santa for the youngest ones. Like, Christmas would be a killer for Dad. Yeah, especially with the twins and everything. That'd be.
As the family grew from children to adults, some stayed local while others emigrated to other countries. But their mother and her faith were never far from their thoughts. Then in 2007, at the age of 67, McDara passed away after an illness, leaving his family devastated. Catherine saying he was a wonderful father, always making sure they never went without. Over the years, several case reviews have taken place, and the family have even used the services of a private detective. It was established that Barbara could not have left the country as she did not own a passport. It had been checked if she had one in her own name, her married name, and her name as Gaeilge, and nothing was found. In 2015, the case was reopened after the family wrote a letter to the then Garda Commissioner Miriam O'Sullivan, asking her if she would consider reopening it, and to their delight, she did. This led to the house in Carna and the land surrounding it being cordoned off and a technical examination taking place, which included the use of Garda sniffer dogs. This search would last over 5 days. Extensive inquiries, both locally and through Interpol, were also carried out. The local lakes, beach and surrounding countryside were also searched. Some of these searches proving difficult because of the unforgiving terrain.
Extensive inquiries were carried out both locally and also through Interpol.
Agus túris gítar gra Gardaí agus sagart negotiate. She was always at home with us, took care of us.
2015, we searched the family farm, essentially, different areas of it. The search lasted for over 5 days. Didn't further the case in any way.
Didn't lead them anywhere towards discovering where Barbara Walsh's remains finally are. And that's a very sad situation, very troubling to the Walsh family, very troubling to the Lydon family, and indeed very troubling to the whole community.
Yeah, we were explained that they'd have to start of where she was last seen and then work their way out. So, that was understandable, yeah. Just last year that they searched the lakes as well. Just nothing from it.
Some bracken and some heather, again, quite difficult. Over to the right here was the family home and the outbuildings. The homestead and the farm comprised of approximately 8 acres, and it moved from the roadway right down to the traw here.
But unfortunately, nothing that would lead to her whereabouts or what had happened to her was discovered, which was very disappointing for her family. That investigation generated 114 lines of inquiry and 70 written statements. One piece of new information that the Gardaí were particularly interested in was a statement from someone saying that after leaving the pub that night and everyone was back at Barbara's house, a verbal argument ensued between Barbara and her husband McDara. Shortly afterwards, everyone had been invited back, left the house and went home. It was understood this alleged argument may have started outside the pub and was about who had been invited back to the house. The tension then continued back at the house when they allegedly had more words about making the tea and the sandwiches. MacDara's brother was due to be leaving to go back to Australia in the coming days, and the party was essentially a leaving do for him. As we know, people at the party comprised of mainly family and friends, two of which were local Gardaí. These two Gardaí would be the same Gardaí that conducted the initial lacklustre inquiry. They should never have been involved in the investigation to begin with, as they were at the house that night. People in the area are at a loss as to what actually happened to Barbara. As her brother Padraig said, she didn't just vanish off the face of the earth. It is still a very raw subject for the locals and family despite nearly 40 years having passed. They are still asking, where is she? So what did happen that night? What we do know is that the party was essentially a family celebration, family returning from far-flung corners of the earth. This in itself, despite being a happy occasion, can bring certain stresses. All the extra entertaining and socialising would have taken its toll, especially on Barbara, who had an infant along with 6 other children. As well as that, even though they were family, they may not have known each other that well. We know from witness statements that there were tensions in the air amongst the party as early as when they were all at the local pub, and these tensions simmered over to the house later that night. All Gardaí could ascertain was that this tension was witnessed and was supposedly connected to who would go back with the 12 guests to the house for the tea and the sandwiches. Surely amongst the 12 guests that were there that night, the key to solving this lies. Information appears sketchy as to how the overall night went. The party reportedly continued at the house from around 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. Then there is the question as to why it took MacDara so long to report Barbara missing. He did not report her missing until June the 29th, which was a week later. In his missing person report, MacDara does say that Barbara had went missing before for a week, but that time she came home. Was this why he was slow to report it? Did he assume she would come back? Or was he told by someone not to say anything? His sister and brother and their spouses did leave the country allegedly a week later. Does this have anything to do with the delay in reporting it? He had told the children she would be back. Did he really believe that? Or was he just trying to pacify them? When she did not return home, the smaller children were taken in by relatives, as MacDara was understandably finding it difficult to cope with 7 children on his own with everything that was going on. The notion that Barbara went off and left her family for a better life somewhere else sounds far-fetched, and there is no evidence to support that theory. She had no passport, the £600 in her account was never touched, plus everyone who knew Barbara was adamant that she would never leave her children, not in a million years. That just leaves 2 options, accident or foul play. Again, I doubt Barbara had an accident. If she did, why was she not found? Thorough searches of her home and surrounding area in 2015 and again in 2021 revealed nothing to advance the investigation.
Gardaí Carna, along with Barbara's family and Crime Stoppers, are renewing their appeal into the disappearance of Barbara Walsh. We are appealing in particular to the close-knit Gaeltacht community in Carna, to anyone who may have information, to please come forward and share that information with us. We believe that individuals in this community have the key to unlocking the mystery into the disappearance of Barbara Walsh.
We know our mom wouldn't have just left us. So whatever took her out of the house that morning, the early hours that morning, it's still a mystery to us. Like why she would have even gone out of the house. Or where would she have gone? So anybody with information on that to come forward to us. So you're just continuously searching, looking and waiting. Like inside at heart of hearts, like you're just waiting for her to come in the door. Well, the information hopefully would bring to light that it would bring her home to us. That we could put her to rest and for us to stop searching.
Crime Stoppers are offering a cash reward for anyone who comes forward with information which may lead to a significant development in this case. Anyone with information should contact Crime Stoppers, Salt Hill Garda Station, or indeed your local Garda station.
More investigation with fresh eyes is needed if this case is to progress. Her family do believe Barbara is dead, and they do suspect foul play is involved. Barbara is not here to tell us what happened to her, but someone out there knows. Does someone who was at the party know what happened to Barbara? We did hear that arguments did take place, one between Barbara and McDara. Was this why Barbara was on the sofa? Were others involved in these arguments? And what were the arguments about, if they were? Did people leave the house because of the tension that was there? Did someone come back after 4 a.m? It was alleged that Catherine Walsh, McDara's sister, did return to the house after the party had broken up to get her high-heeled shoes and had left again before the family woke that morning. There are so many unanswered questions, and some of the people that were at the party that night are no longer with us to answer. What we do know is Barbara, if she left the house willingly, brought nothing with her. No clothes, no jewellery, no money. And her children firmly believe she would not have walked out on them. So the question on everyone's lips is, if she did not leave willingly, what actually happened to Barbara? And by whose hand did she disappear? So as I conclude today's episode, I want to take a moment to think about Barbara's family. The void that her disappearance has left is, I have no doubt, incredible.
Around 4 o'clock in the morning, my mom got up. She got a pillow from the hot press and got a blanket. So she put the pillow underneath my grandmother's head because she had fallen asleep on the couch. And then she put the blanket on her and she went back to sleep, and that was the last time anyone had seen her. My name's Aileen Walsh. The person missing is Barbara Walsh. She'd be my grandmother, so she'd be my mother's mother. Her kids adored her. She was just like any caring mother that you could ever imagine. And even as a wife to my granddad, you know, he used to say as well how great she was and how good she was to the kids. She always made sure that anyone that came into the house felt welcome. She was a very welcoming person. She went missing the 22nd of June 1985. They had a little family gathering at their house, the local house in Rushilmania. And there was 2 guards, there was a priest, there was his brother and sister, Patrick and Catherine, and there was a few local neighbours at the party as well. The party went on till about maybe 1 or 2, and then everyone left. We know she didn't leave. For the way that we heard about her and how she was as a mother, you know she wouldn't leave her kids. She loved her kids. And I know someone did do something to her. We just want to know what. It's hard because we never got to have her in our life. Not getting to know that person that was, you know, your mom's mother. It's upsetting because we never got to meet the person that she was. We only got to hear the stories. And at the end of the day, I think people need to understand is it's not just her children that are grieving this, it's her grandchildren that are grieving this as well. Because we never met the person that our parents are talking about. Because I'm her granddaughter, it shows that the next generation and the generation after me are going to still keep on fighting to find answers out.
The mystery has continued for 39 years now for them, and they have spent that time trying to seek out the light of truth and resolution. All I can hope for is that sharing her story here on the podcast not only helps by keeping Barbara's memory alive, but it might reignite the search for her answers.
She was a proud woman. Very proud. Yeah, she was a good mother. I'm sure somebody does know where or what have happened. Still, it's not too late for somebody to say something. Never too late.
If you or anyone you know has any information, no matter how small or insignificant you think it is, please contact the Salt Hill Garda Station on 091 514720 or the Garda confidential line on 1800 666 111 or Crime Stoppers on 1800 250 025 or even contact your local Garda station. So guys, that's it for today's episode of the Ireland Crimes and Mysteries podcast. Again, thanks for your listenership, and don't forget to subscribe to the show and hit that auto download so you never miss an episode. Until the next time, keep your eyes open and your mind curious. This podcast has been compiled from information gathered in the public sphere, like news articles, documentaries, and open source material that can be found on the web. Everything in this podcast is alleged unless a conviction has taken place.
You've been listening to Ireland Crimes and Mysteries. Join Nules for another episode, coming real soon. And keep up to date by following our social media sites, our YouTube channel, and our website, irelandcrimesandmysteries.ie.